Hey YouTube, I'm starting this channel to document the buildup of my 2020 F350. Grand plan for this truck is to turn it into a Lariat Tremor clone, even though I bought an XL with the STX package. First thing I'm going to do today though is deal with the sled deck. I swapped this sled deck from my 2014 F250 into this 2020. And because of the way that Marlon has this deck wired, there's a lot of quirky things that happen when you plug the 4-pin connector into the truck, and we'll go over that in a second. I'll show you what happens on the dash when you plug this in. But Marlon knew about this, and they have a kit that you can actually plug in and alleviate all the issues, and I haven't really seen too many videos about it other than the one Marlon video which shows you how to install it, which I'm also going to go over today. But let's take a look and I'll show you what happens when you get in the truck and start it up. Alright, so let's start the old girl up and see what happens. This is the 7.3 with the 10-speed transmission, 7.3 gas with the 10-speed transmission, by the way. So, with the 4-pin connector plugged in, you can see what happens. Every time you put the vehicle into drive, you get these error messages, and they do not clear themselves automatically. You physically have to go in and hit OK every time you go into drive. So, that's not going to work for me. And the reason this happens is because Marlon's using only 3 pins out of the 4-pin connectors, and the trucks are now smart enough that they have figured out that the 3rd pin is missing, and it throws a whole bunch of errors. The other thing that happens is when you put the directionals on, you get a hyper flash because it's missing that pin, and the truck thinks that you have a fault, electrical issue, and you get a hyper flash on your dash, versus the other side, you get the normal speed. So I'm going to fix that today with the harness I got from Marlon, and I'll show you how that install goes. It looks like it's going to be pretty simple. So here's the harness I got from Marlon. When we look underneath the truck, on the bumper underneath there is this same matching connector. So this harness piggybacks on top of that connection, the bumper connection, that goes to the 7-pin connector, I believe, and a whole bunch of other lighting features, especially if you have a dually with the marker lights and a few other things. It's quite a big harness. And then what we're going to do is take the 4-way plug from the deck and plug it into this connector here, and that should alleviate the faults. This extra connector here, the newer Marlon decks have a reverse light built in, and that's what this guy's for. Stay tuned because I'm actually going to use that and add some reverse lights, bumper mounted reverse lights to my truck, since my deck is a 2019 model and I don't have the integrated light bar in the back of the deck. So I'm going to use that feature later on and add my own reverse lights in the bumper. So I'm going to try and take you guys along and do the install, and we'll see what happens from there. Okay, here we are under the back of the truck, and what we're looking at here is on the passenger side frame rail, just where the receiver hitch comes, there's the mating connector that we're looking for. So what I'm going to do is unplug that, plug in the piggyback connector for Marlon, and I'll show you guys what that looks like when I get it done. Okay, here's what everything looks like all installed. Everything's pretty straightforward. You just plug everything in, it only goes in one way. I've got the wires routed up over the back of the bumper, up under the tailgate, across to the other side where I've got my wiring harness coming down. Okay, we're back in the truck. We'll start it up and see what happens. Put it in drive. No error messages. Left directional, normal blink rate. Right directional, normal blink rate. We're good to go. So one other thing I wanted to point out that I did to my deck, the slight modification, is I added these small little LEDs in the end caps. And one thing that was bothering me with this sled deck is when the wings are out, especially at night, it's really hard, if not impossible, to see where the edge of that deck is. And I also don't know how legally they can sell this deck without the marker lights on the end caps to mark the widest point of the vehicle. So I don't know, maybe it's not a safety thing, but it does help at night being able to see where those little end caps are when you're driving down the road. Hey, if you guys like this video, stay tuned for more. Like I said, I'm going to build this truck up over the course of this year into a Lariat clone. Haven't really done too much to it so far now that it's winter, other than put on some snow tires on a separate set of rims that I had. So those are not the 2020 XL STX rims. I think these are off of like a 17 Lariat. They're actually 20-inch studded snow tires. So those have been working out well so far. The only other thing I've done is add the wheel well liners, forward wheel well liners. There's a few YouTube videos about those. Install super easy. Obviously covering snow and slush right now, snowing today. But coming up, I've also got a set of rock blocks, front and rears, the kickbacks. Be doing a video on that. I haven't seen too many people actually do install videos on those. So like I said, if you priced a Tremor Lariat, you know they're about 80 grand. This one is way less than that, starting with an XL. And I figure I've done a lot of the pricing for these parts already. Probably 7,000 in parts. I'll be doing almost all the labor myself. Also got a video coming up. I'm going to add keyless entry, the keypad entry to the B-pillar. So I haven't seen too many videos on that on a new Super Duty. So a lot of stuff coming up. Stay tuned. Bye.